Thanks for sticking around.
No problem. I'll be waiting.
Looks like he's still not here. No answer. The axe head matches the thin slashes, and the hammer side matches the bigger holes. This tool, or one very similar to it, was used to ventilate the drywall at the spa. The fire was set by someone with the knowledge to burn that building to the ground.
I don't care what you say. I would never start a fire.
The drywall at the spa was ventilated with a Denver tool.
Well, it wasn't my Denver tool. Anybody can buy one on the internet. Even Portia had one.
Why did Portia have a Denver tool?
She took mine. She wanted it for protection. Said it creeped her out to be alone in that place all day.
By that place, do you mean the spa?
Yeah, she had hers at the spa.
You know something? You're right. There are a lot of other Denver tools floating around out there. But in this case, I really only think there's one I need to worry about. And it belongs to you. You followed Portia to the spa, and when she was nice and relaxed in her mud bath, you torched the place. And then you went back to her apartment to get your things, and a few of her things too. And then you tried to disappear. I bet you figured, hey, if it looks like a break-in, then no one will suspect the boyfriend who's already got a key to the place. And that might have worked for you too. But you forgot to light a fire under yourself. You were still standing right there when we rolled up.
Captain, I respect the police. I really do. I know what it's like to go out there every day and put it all on the line. And I know you're just doing your job. But if you can look me straight in the eye and really hear what I'm saying to you, and yet still believe that I could do this to Portia, then I feel very, very sorry for you, because you're not qualified to carry that badge. Now, are you really gonna arrest me, or what?
No, we're not going to arrest you, Brian. But we'd appreciate if you could hold tight here for a while.
All right, I will. For now. And like I said, I'm happy to answer your questions, but no more finger-pointing, or I'm done.
We understand. Thank you. You said that Portia spent hours alone at the spa. How often did she do that?
Just about every day. You know, there were times I started to believe that place might be some sort of front.
A front?
Yeah, you know, for money laundering. Portia was convinced, and she was keeping her own records. She told me that place wasn't making a dime.
Did anyone else know Portia was keeping financial records?
I think she might have mentioned it to a boss, which seemed like the wrong guy to talk to about it, but she trusted him. At least she did. But after she talked to him, she got all paranoid. Ended up hiding all the papers in the broiler drawer. I thought she was just high. Hey, you guys looking at him for this?
Thanks for sticking around.
No problem. I'll be waiting.
Hi. Sorry, I was shaving. Cut myself. What can I do for you?
Portia Weismann owned a firefighting tool. She kept it at the spa for security. Have you seen it?
No. She had some kind of weapon at the spa? Well, that's totally against company policy.
We'll be back.
Looking forward to it.
You followed Portia.
Maybe. Your victim had advanced mesothelioma. It's a type of cancer that attacks the lining of the vital organs. It's thought to be caused most often by exposure to asbestos. It looks as though it was an ongoing problem for her. I discovered indications of a pleurectomy, the removal of the outermost lining of the lungs. From the scar tissue, that surgery probably took place a few years ago. She may have thought she was out of the woods. Unfortunately, I found an active malignancy in her pericardium, the lining of her heart. She didn't have long to live.
You know, we found some asbestos at the crime scene. The whole ceiling was coated with it. There was even a corner of the break room where it had come down. You don't suppose our victim set the fire, do you? Revenge and suicide all in one? We'll have to ask Brass if she filed any kind of complaint.
Well, the pleurectomy obviously suggests at one point she knew she had cancer. But there's no way to know whether she was aware it had recently metastasized to her heart. I ran an expanded tox screen. She hadn't been taking any cancer medications, and I didn't find any tissue damage from possible radiation treatments. I did, however, find evidence of a persistent, dare I say, habitual use of cannabis. You know, a Harvard Medical School study concluded that one of the active chemicals in marijuana, THC, may in fact inhibit the growth of certain tumor classifications, even though it says right there in the press release that the growth of some other tumors might actually be accelerated by THC. A man hears what he wants to hear and disregards the rest, right? So now the idea that weed cures cancer is spreading far and wide. Anytime.
What can I do for you?
We'll be back.
Looking forward to it.
Good catch. That should contain a workable sample of his DNA. Pete Baja's DNA, ready for processing. Baja was in Portia Weismann's apartment, even though he told us he'd never been there.
How's the arson case? Is your decorated fireman still the prime suspect?
I'm not so sure now. He's got an answer for everything. And what I thought was the best evidence we had against him, his firefighting tool, well, it doesn't actually provide us with anything conclusive. On top of that, the spa's owner, Pete Baja, lied to us about never visiting the victim's apartment.
All right. Well, talk to Brass. See if he can help you take a closer look at this, Mr. Baja.
All right. You're down here already. I was just gonna call you. This is Special Agent Gene Huntby of the FBI. It seems your case may be crossing into his jurisdiction. Agent Huntby, why don't I let you explain the situation to them?
Thank you, Captain Brass. It's my understanding your prime suspect in the arson fire at the Super La Spa is Pedro Baxa. Is my information correct?
We're looking at him for the arson and a homicide. A young woman by the name of Portia Weismann died in the fire.
Is that right? Well, let me explain why I'm here. Are you familiar with La Reina de la Colmena? Unfortunately, as a member of law enforcement, you should be. In Spanish, it means the Queen of the Hive, and it's the alias for a woman named Beatriz Salazar, now the most dangerous drug lord in Mexico. We believe Pedro Baxa was in her employ.
Okay. So is this the part where you tell us to back off Mr. Baja and let you do your job?
No, Ms. Sidle, not at all. I want you to get your man. I want you to get him so bad he'll have no choice but to cut a deal. You see, in the entire universe of Lorena de la Colmena's drug trafficking operation, Baja's just a satellite, a small-time money launderer through those little shops of his. But for some reason, we have him on wiretaps in direct communication with Salazar. The taps themselves are useless because Baja and Salazar communicate in code, referring to things like family, weather, whatever. But why she's talking to him directly instead of through an intermediary, I have no idea. But it's that direct connection that means, if we can bring down Baja, then we have our best shot yet at taking down the Queen of the Hive herself.
Agent Hunpy has requested the opportunity to keep tabs on us for a while, and run this one as a joint jurisdiction.
You do your thing, I'll do mine.
Based on what evidence? I was there when Baja said he'd never been in Portia Weismann's apartment. His DNA in that apartment will get you your warrant. Mr. Baja, Las Vegas police, open up. Looks like he's not here. Guess we'll have to execute the warrant without him. Score 1 for the lockpick gun. Always cleaner than breaking out the battering ram.
It looks like an empty financial or legal portfolio with the spa's logo on it. Those records we found in the Vic's oven are just the kind you'd keep in a binder like this. Vegan blueberry muffins. They look almost edible and flammable. Look at that. The hard disk isn't screwed in. It might just be new, but the Vic's PC was missing a hard drive. We can figure it out back at the lab. You can tell a lot about a person from the kind of shoes they wear. You can tell a lot more if you forensically examine their shoes. I wonder why they need so much acetone. Place is a little too masculine for manicures. These shears are made for cutting pipes, and we have a severed gas line to account for. That looks just like the tool we got from Reed. These tax forms claim that Superla Spa was highly profitable. a match. Each side of the tool matches one of the distinct shapes ventilating the spa's drywall. Brian Reed's Denver tool is just as likely to have been used to help spread the fire as the tool we recovered from the barber shop. The tool from the barber shop could have been used to break into Portia's apartment. It's a vegan blueberry muffin, just like it said on the package. Factor out the carbon, and the muffin that helped ignite the fire is identical to the ones we found in Baja's office. Almost pure acetone. No fragrances, no dye. Very few impurities at all. What's this? Trend Micro Internet Security Pro has detected a virus. Repair. Looks like someone's been practicing unsafe surfing. Okay, let's see what Pete has on this hard drive. Cat pictures, puzzle games, and Portia Weismann's monthly household budget. Looks like we found the drive that was missing from the computer in the loft.
What do you got in the way of evidence? So those shears look as though they were used to cut the pipe, but we don't have the physical evidence to put those shears in Baja's hands. What evidence do you have? No judge will sign off on that.
I would expect that to be Pete Baja's fingerprint, since we found the ledger in his office. That could tell us who handled this tool. Looks like some kind of dried mud. That's just where someone would hold a shoe when putting it on. More volcanic minerals and acetone. It wasn't Baja's fingerprint, but why would he have a ledger with Portia's prints on it? Portia Weismann used this tool. It might be the one Brian Reed told us she was keeping at the spa. Portia kept her Denver tool at the spa, right where Pete Baja could have easily taken it. Look at how the imperfections on the blade match up to the markings on the gas line. These shears were used to cut that gas line.
Based on what evidence? So those shears look as though they were used to cut the pipe, but we don't have the physical evidence to put those shears in Baja's hands. What do you got in the way of evidence? Seems like you have some work to do with that before I can look too closely at it.
Based on the placement of Baja's fingerprint, those have got to be his shoes. The shoes tie Pete Baja to the spot just prior to the explosion. I think we may have enough to nail Baja for starting the fire. His shoes put him in the spa sometime after the acetone was dumped. He picked up quantities of both the accelerant and the spa mud. The hair placed Baja in Portia's apartment, but the footprint puts him there sometime after visiting the spa. Okay, I think I have a pretty clear picture of what happened. Baja was laundering money, and when Portia confronted him about it, he panicked. Then he decided to rig the spa to explode. Portia probably showed up after Pete was gone. Doc Robbins said she had marijuana in her system, so she might not have noticed the acetone. While she was there burning to death, Baja was at her apartment looking for the record she was keeping. With what we have now, an arrest warrant won't be a problem. Let's go talk to Brass.
Good, you're all here.
What's going on, Captain Brass? What's so sensitive you couldn't discuss it over the phone?
We have a visitor. Miss Beatriz Salazar.
You serious? She's here?
The Queen of the Hive herself just walked in and asked to talk to the CSIs in charge of the Pedro Baxa case.
Do you mind if I sit in on this one, Captain Brass?
Be my guest, you can even take my seat. I'll hang back and watch from the viewing room.
Hello, Ms. Salazar. My name is Special Agent...
Gene Huntby. I know who you are. But these two, I am unfamiliar with. I shall presume you are the ones persecuting my poor, clumsy Pedrocito.
We're not persecuting anyone. The evidence speaks for itself, ma'am. Usually when someone wants to talk to us in this room, they want to confess. So, is there something you'd like to get off your chest, Miss Salazar?
You think you're very clever, don't you? Perhaps I know you better than I thought, but I'm here for Pedro. He is family.
Family, huh? You know, I might actually be moved by that if you weren't still the primary suspect in the execution murder of your first husband.
My husband's murderer remains at large, Agent Huntby. Pedro is from Ayapa, my village in Mexico. He graduated from the school I built for them and prayed in the church I gave them. Pedro's family, all 3 of his sisters, they live in the house I provide. So as you can see, I have a significant investment in the future and well-being of this young man.
Sorry about your investment, but like I said, the evidence speaks for itself. And it never lies.
What precisely is this evidence saying to you?
We're not at liberty to discuss the specifics of an ongoing investigation.
Very well, I understand. My heart breaks for Pedro. He always tried so very hard to please me. Sometimes a man is called upon to be more than he has been in the past. Sometimes he fails.
Operations the size of this one, they tend to run right under the radar, making them perfect little laundromats for hundreds of thousands of dollars of your petty cash.
And remind me again, Agent Huntby, why I should need to launder money when I too am a very successful, multinational, legitimate businesswoman? My Pedro was a legitimate small businessman.
Superla Spa wasn't doing nearly as much business as he was reporting.
Oh dear. First you zero in on poor Pedro, and now it sounds like you're investigating me. Shall I get my lawyer? Shall I go?
We don't need to go there right now.
A woman is dead because Pete Baxa was trying to clean up a mess. Do you think it was his own? Or yours?
I think if this evidence is speaking to you, miss, then something must be lost in the translation. Regardless of whatever mess there was, Pedro is incapable of violence.
Pedrocito got in over his head, didn't he, B?
That's Ms. Salazar to you, Agent Huntby. I do not believe courtesy is too much to ask from an agent of the FBI. But then again, why should I expect anything else from a man who is so clearly prepared to scapegoat a young man like my Pedro? Pedro is not a murderer.
Aren't you afraid you'll leave some trace of yourself behind? A hair or flake of skin? Something with your DNA that we might be able to use against you.
Wouldn't want to make your job more difficult than it has to be. I believe I have made myself very clear to you. I shall not waste any more of your time. Muchas gracias.
What the hell was all that about? I mean, what'd she think she was going to accomplish?
Hey, about that arrest warrant for Baja. Nevada Highway Patrol was able to track him down. The bad news is, he's dead. I need you to meet me at the barbershop. See you there. 2 police officers came by to serve that arrest warrant again. They found him like this. Called it in.
Is that a video camera?
It's aimed right at him.
My name is Pedro Baxa. I'm an embezzler and a murderer. I set fire to the Superla Spa in order to cover up the fact that, for some time now, I have been fraudulently reporting its earnings. I poured acetone all over, cut the gas line, and left a muffin to burn in the toaster oven. I wasn't going to do the drywall, but that tool was there, and I was nervous. I swear to God, the place was empty when I rigged it to go up. I didn't know. How could I know that Portia would come by in the middle of the night? I even went to her apartment to talk her into giving me the records she told me about. When she wasn't there, I broke in. It was made crystal clear to me that I needed to get the records. But I never found them. I know it's small comfort, but I apologize to her family and to anyone close to her. I'm so sorry for taking her away. Sometimes a man is called upon to be more than he has been in the past. Sometimes he fails. Please, tell my sisters this. I made a deal with the devil to keep you safe, to give you a better life. I beg you to remember me if you are ever tempted to make a deal of your own. So it's come to this. Goodbye.
So all the forensic evidence supports what Pete Baxa confessed to on the video?
Yes, it does. But Pete Baja's confession wasn't for us, was it?
Neither was his suicide. I think he was trying to make amends.
To his queen.
Well, this case may not have resolved itself the way Agent Huntby had hoped. Now he'll have to find another way to trap Salazar. But regardless, you guys did some very good work on this one.
Speaking of good work, I'm glad you didn't have to arrest Brian Reed. I was reviewing his service record, and despite the disciplinary actions, he was a very brave firefighter. Won a Medal of Valor for saving a gymnasium full of high school kids. It's a shame what happened to him. He certainly deserves a second chance.
You know what? I think the deputy fire chief just might owe me a favor.